You are listening to Uranium Spotlight on Tuesday, July 23, 2024. Brought to you by Pure Point Uranium Group, your exploration partner in Canada's Athabasca Basin. Amidst surging uranium demand, Pure Point's continuous 2024 exploration across their vast portfolio, backed by industry giants, underscores their focus on the next major discovery. And now your host, Chris Frostad.
This week on Uranium Spotlight, the DOE issues its first waiver, Turkey scrambles to fuel its reactors, China begins construction of its largest domestic uranium mine, and IsoEnergy monetizes its Argentinian assets. Last week, the uranium spot price slid $2 to close on Friday at $84 US per pound U3O8. Since falling off to $76 in mid-March from its $120 high in January, the uranium spot price has leveled off at an average of approximately $88, despite continued geopolitical influences from around the world, including the U.S.'s Prohibiting Russian Imports Act on May 13th. In line with that new act, Centrus Energy Corp recently received a partial waiver from the U.S. Department of Energy, allowing the import of low-enriched uranium from Russia for 2024 and 2025 deliveries, already committed to U.S. customers. The act permits DOE-issued waivers until 2027. Centrus's first waiver request was filed on May 27, 2024. The DOE referred its decision on Centrus's waiver request for 2026 and 2027 until closer to those delivery dates. Centrus is also awaiting a DOE decision on a second waiver request filed on June 7, 2024, for importing low-enriched uranium for processing and re-export to foreign customers. The company plans a third waiver request for uncommitted LEU imports in 2026 and 2027, though there's no guarantee of approval. The U.S. Energy Department aims to buy enriched uranium from domestic suppliers, potentially benefiting Centrus Energy, which is interested in participating. This initiative seeks to reduce reliance on Russian imports and bolster the American nuclear fuel supply chain. Additionally, Centrus is pursuing funding to increase production of high-assay low-enriched uranium, or HALEU, intended for next-generation U.S. nuclear reactors. Despite security concerns about HALEU's potential use in nuclear weapons, the Biden administration supports its development through the Inflation Reduction Act. Turkey is in the process of building a fleet of reactors, mostly with Russian assistance. The first reactor of this planned 20-reactor fleet is being built by Rosatom, a Russian state-owned corporation, and is currently in the commissioning phase. Turkey aims to complete these 20 reactors by 2050, potentially earlier in the 2040s if they expand the planned power plants to include 8 reactors, each instead of the currently forecasted 4. The second nuclear plant will likely be built by Rosatom, with South Korea as another possible contractor. For the third plant in Thrace, Turkey is looking to China, and it also plans to contract with American company Westinghouse to build a fleet of small modular reactors. These reactors are designed for fast, flexible, and cost-effective deployments, often suitable for remote or rural areas where large-scale reactors may not be viable. To fuel these reactors, Turkey will need a substantial uranium supply. It already has an agreement for Russian fuel for its nearly completed reactor. Turkey, unlike many of its NATO allies, relies heavily on Russian oil and gas and has no current plans to change this. However, with 20 reactors, a diverse fuel supply is necessary. This is why last week, Turkey sent a delegation to Niger to secure a uranium supply. The delegation, led by Turkey's foreign minister and including the head of its spy agency, sought to negotiate amid Niger's increasing cooperation with Russia. Following a coup in 2023, Niger's military government has distanced itself from France. Niger has recently revoked permits for Canadian company Goviex Uranium Inc. and French company Orano SA. Rosatom is reportedly considering taking over the Morin project. Niger's government claims these projects were taking too long to become profitable and needs faster development due to the country's economic challenges. Niger holds 5% of the world's uranium reserves and is the 7th largest producer globally. Despite revoking some permits, Niger has allowed other foreign mines, including Orano's Somare mine and Canadian Mining Corporation Global Atomic's Dasa mine, to continue operations or development as usual. As countries around the world build out their reactor fleets in response to climate change, they're also scrambling for supplies of uranium. Take China, for example. Already leading in reactor construction, China began building another reactor this past week, bringing its total number of reactors under construction to 29. Once these reactors are completed, China will have 85 operable reactors, including the 56 that are currently in operation. As of 2020, China uses about 33 million pounds of uranium annually in its reactors. However, it produces only about 3 million pounds a year, necessitating a significant reliance on foreign suppliers. China's identified recoverable uranium reserves total approximately 493 million pounds, with reasonably assured reserves of about 237 million pounds. If China were to supply all of its demand from domestic sources, it would exhaust its reserves within 15 years. This estimate does not account for the additional demand from the reactors currently under construction. China sources uranium from several countries, including Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Niger, Canada, and Namibia, with Kazakhstan being the largest supplier. In an effort to reduce its dependence on foreign uranium, China is making strides in domestic production. The major Chinese reactor operator and global uranium miner CNNC, through its subsidiary CNUC, has begun construction of what is set to be China's largest uranium mine. Although the mine's size has not been disclosed, CNNC has allocated a budget of 1.5 billion yuan, or roughly $200 million for its construction. While China may never become fully independent of foreign uranium sources, this new mine represents a step towards reducing its reliance on imported uranium. Another consequence of China's international search for uranium supply is that much of Kazakhstan's uranium is now tied up in long-term deals with Chinese companies. Additionally, a significant portion is promised to Russia for its reactor and nuclear fuel cycle industry. This leaves limited uranium available for other countries, including Western nations and Kazakhstan itself. Kazakhstan currently has no reactors, but is considering building them, with 3 sites under consideration. With almost 90% of its production committed to deals with Russia and China, and the rest promised to Western powers and their allies, how will Kazakhstan secure uranium for its own power generation needs? This is a crucial question, especially since building new mines or buying foreign uranium on the international market is not a practical solution given Kazakhstan's massive uranium reserves, the second largest in the world. However, a new mine would take 10 to 15 years to bring online, about as long as it would take to build the first reactor. Therefore, Kazakhstan must address its uranium supply while the reactor is still in the planning stages, not afterwards. Another significant uranium export is Uzbekistan, where production in the first half of this year is up 12% compared to the same period last year. Uzbekistan is also planning to enter the reactor building business, with its first reactor planned to be an SMR built by Rosatom. If Kazakhstan cannot supply its own uranium due to existing commitments, Uzbekistan, as an emerging major supplier, might be able to meet its own needs and those of its neighbor. IsoEnergy Limited has completed the sale of its Argentine portfolio to Jaguar Uranium Corp., a private company with a focus on uranium in Latin America. This strategic sale includes the Laguna Salada and Huemul projects, and Jaguar plans to list on a North American stock exchange very soon. This transaction aligns with IsoEnergy's strategy of leveraging non-core assets in favorable market conditions. By divesting these properties, IsoEnergy can now concentrate on its key uranium jurisdictions in the U.S., Canada, and Australia, optimizing resource allocation for its primary projects. The deal boosts IsoEnergy's equity portfolio, which includes NextGen Energy, Premier American Uranium, and Atha Energy. Importantly, IsoEnergy secures future investment rights in Jaguar, maintaining exposure to the upside potential as these properties are developed. Jaguar, with its proven expertise in Latin America, is well positioned to advance the Argentine properties. Phil Williams, CEO of IsoEnergy, noted that every uranium pound in every jurisdiction will be needed to meet future demand, and Jaguar, with its Berlin project in Colombia and the newly acquired Argentine properties, plays a crucial role in South America. In return for the acquisition, IsoEnergy receives $10 million in Jaguar shares, royalties on production, and the option to acquire additional royalties. The deal also includes provisions for IsoEnergy to participate in future Jaguar equity financings and appoint a representative to Jaguar's board. And that wraps up your Uranium Spotlight coverage for this week. For more news and events from the world of uranium, please tune in next week to Uranium Spotlight.
You've been listening to Uranium Spotlight, your weekly podcast dedicated to delivering the latest news and events shaping the uranium fuel market and its critical role in the global energy landscape. Brought to you by PurePoint Uranium Group. PurePoint actively operates a portfolio of advanced uranium projects in the world's richest uranium district and has established partnerships with some of the largest uranium suppliers worldwide. While our passion for this subject is undeniable, it's essential to clarify that the information presented here is not investment advice. Instead, our goal is to offer an unbiased and comprehensive review of recent events that could impact uranium prices. Join us again next Tuesday for Uranium Spotlight.